today we're going to cover ashwagandha, the benefits of ashwagandha, what it does for both men and women, and also, very important, we are going to cover sleep as well, and sleeping with adrenal fatigue, and all the necessary things you need to know about sleep. So before we get started, again, I am Casey Hawkinson, co-founder of Unlimited Health. We are a supplement company, and we created a supplement called Adrenal Relief. Our main founder, Greg Davenport, is on the line as well. Greg, hello, welcome to podcast number 3.
Hey, Casey, how you doing?
Good.
That's good.
Happy
Friday.
All right. You sound serious. Sound like you're ready to go.
I am.
Okay. All right. I've heard that before. So let's get into this. Ashwagandha, main ingredient of our supplement,
Yep.
Adrenal Relief. We get a lot of questions about it. So we've made a podcast or a half podcast about it here today. So let me ask you, Greg, because you suffered from stage 3 adrenal fatigue, and ashwagandha was something that you incorporated. So tell us, what are the benefits for both women and men with using ashwagandha?
Yeah, sure. Let me first start by saying, we get that question all the time, don't we? And I personally had never heard of ashwagandha before. It's also, I think it's kind of difficult to spell. And until I had adrenal, what's that?
I always have to look it up.
Yeah, until I had
once or twice a week.
Yeah, until I had adrenal fatigue, I had never heard of it before. And it's called an aptogen. And it's a fancy word essentially for saying it's a plant that has or has the ability, it's been proven to de-stress the body on top of a lot of other things. So, personally, I take ashwagandha through our adrenal relief supplement every day. I don't deal with adrenal fatigue anymore, but I do live a high stress life, just with kids, and, I'm an entrepreneur, and I notice, I feel a noticeable difference when I take it versus not taking it. And basically what it does for most people is what I kind of already mentioned. It's literally just a plant that helps de-stress the body and lower cortisol, which is the most important part of, or not the most important part, but one of the most important parts of dealing with adrenal fatigue. Is so many people with that constant overload or long-term exposure to stress, their cortisol levels are too high, which makes it hard to sleep. You're irritable. If you're unable to remove the cortisol from the system, it starts to accumulate as belly fat in the body, which does nothing to help, de-stress people. And that's what its main function is it helps de-stress people.
Okay. So can you tell me, as far as ashwagandha with women, can you walk me through what?
Yeah, sure. Men and women, as far as cortisol is concerned, taking ashwagandha will help lower that. There's actually at least 2 big distinctions between men and women. So women that are taking ashwagandha, depending on your age, it actually helps with menopause. It acts on the endocrine system by encouraging hormonal balance. And they've done studies where it can reduce, it doesn't remove, there's no magic pill for stuff, but it does help reduce symptoms like hot flashes and anxiety, and it improves people's mood. And the other one, and I have friends that deal with this, and I actually have multiple friends with this. I don't know if you do, Casey, but a lot of my female friends are dealing with fertility issues. And again, there's no magic pill, but ashwagandha can, because it helps regulate your hormone balance, it can make women more fertile if your hormones are out of whack, just by being in more of a homeostasis state where you're not so stressed all the time.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of what you covered, but I did not know in terms of helping with fertility.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting.
Actually, if I can jump in too, one of the other big things, and everyone is aware of this, like cancer continues to, kill millions of people every year. There has been some studies, it's not in humans, they've done it in animals, but they're starting to find that ashwagandha may actually help with cancer.
Let's talk about men then. What how is it different for both men and women? And cover let's talk about men and what it does in a man's body.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of more. It's essentially the same between men and women. Women just get the kind of added boost with, like I said before, with fertility and menopause stuff. Other than that, it's kind of roughly the same for men and women. Like it helps your mood, it de-stresses you. People feel when you're not stressed, your energy comes up. So both men and women will have the benefit of that. And a lot of people too, and it has more to do again with lowering cortisol levels, but people's libido tends to go up too. So for men,
Okay.
that's I suppose maybe
Yeah, yeah.
a little difference, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting stuff. So let's talk about you then for a second, because again, you suffered from stage 3 adrenal fatigue. For those that are new to us or new to the podcast, you essentially self-diagnosed yourself. You hadn't heard of ashwagandha prior to your experience with adrenal fatigue. So tell me what was that like? Like, how did you find ashwagandha? And then number two, tell us about your experiences with ashwagandha.
Yeah, I found it in a forum. I was just I'd gone to the doctor. I knew something was seriously wrong, or it felt that way. We'd run a battery of tests, blood tests. He's a cool guy to the point where he was like, look, I don't think anything is wrong with you, but I can tell, based on what you're saying, something is wrong. And the cool thing about him, at least, when I told him I think I have adrenal fatigue from just reading about all of the symptoms online, he had essentially said, like, I have a lot of my patients are reporting the same things that you are, and ashwagandha was simply one of the supplements I had started to use. And my wife and I joke about it. We had this like pink plastic bucket where I had just started testing out all kinds of different um, supplements that I had read online were helpful, and ashwagandha was at the top. It's a little bit more expensive than other ingredients, but it's a noticeable effect. It did calm me down, and again, it doesn't happen overnight. This stuff you have to take for usually like a good 10 days or so to notice something. You're trying to get your hormones back in balance. But even today, like I said, I'm not dealing with adrenal fatigue. When I don't take ashwagandha, I notice I'm a little bit more moody or irritable, and my stress is a little bit higher. So I just feel more calm, and personally, my cognitive abilities, my thinking abilities improve when I'm not in a stress state. So I take it every day. And granted, I'm biased because we're the owners of Adrenal Relief, but I take it every day. So
Yeah, and so in the what you kind of said on the front end is so much of what I see, particularly on our Instagram platform and even a little bit Facebook and communicating with people, is it just sounded like you really just took charge of your health. And we get so many people that ask about where should I go for advice, and it's getting to the point now where I tell people point blank, it really starts with you and you taking control of your health and your whole situation.
no, I 100% agree. One of my friends who has adrenal fatigue, she's got Hashimoto's as well. I literally said to her the other day, when she was given a diagnosis, she says she has Hashimoto's, and her doctor told her to take some pills, and she kind of pushed back and said, I want to try to do this more naturally instead of just be on drugs for the rest of my life. And I said to her, congratulations for not just accepting a diagnosis. So my doctor, like I said, was pretty cool about it. He was like, look, we're not allowed to essentially diagnose it because it doesn't, essentially exist in medicine in the Western world. but to your point, I didn't accept his diagnosis. Hey, there's nothing you can do and you're fine. You have to take control of your health. And it's no different than just getting a second opinion, right? You can take your doctor's opinion. That doesn't mean doctors are bad. But you should, as to your point, is to try to do more research, listen to podcasts like this. It doesn't have to be ours, but listen to people that have gone through it, how they got over it. And a lot of people in the adrenal fatigue world that are helping other people will recommend ashwagandha. It's definitely one of the top ingredients you want to be taking if you want to recover faster.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. So let's switch over to sleep here,
Sure.
because ashwagandha, obviously, it helps with relaxing your body,
Yep.
and it really helps with sleep. So let's touch on that. What
Sure.
are your thoughts on adrenal fatigue and sleep? And I guess I want to dive in just a little bit more specific with this question. Once you found out you had adrenal fatigue, um, how did you tackle your sleep issues, and how bad were they? And then how did you address your sleep issues to try to get proper rest?
Um, yeah, I know. It was horrible, man. It was, even to this day, just thinking about it, like it just left such a terrible feeling in my system. Sleep for me became a stressful event. Even the thing with adrenal fatigue, and anyone suffering from it will understand this. You're so incredibly tired. It's almost impossible to explain to anyone that has not had it. It's exhaustion like you've never felt before, and all you want to do is sleep. But because your body is dumping you with hormones like cortisol at the wrong times, your fight or flight response, it becomes very difficult or almost impossible to sleep. And for me, the more and more tired I got, the more and more sleep I needed. And when it got closer and closer to bedtime, I knew I wasn't going to be able to fall asleep, which then kickstarted this horrible, stressful cycle of dumping myself with more cortisol and not being able to sleep. And if I even managed to fall asleep, I was wide awake at like 3 a.m. and it was just brutal. So
So just wired for sound.
yeah, it was yeah. I would wake up at like 3 a.m. and just feel like I wanted to fight, even though I was
So
exhausted.
how do you calm your ass down? Like, I mean, how did that work? How did you get out of that vicious cycle?
Yeah, it's again, there's no magic pill. When I counsel people, and I know you do as well, Casey, the number one thing I'm talking to people about is like they'll be 3 days into finding out they've got adrenal fatigue, and they're like, "Look, I'm already trying to get better. I don't know I'm not better." It's not like a common cold. It takes a long time depending on your severity of the adrenal fatigue. For me, I was basically bedridden for 3 months. I couldn't work. It took the better part of a year. And I'm not saying that to increase any listeners' stress levels, but you just have to know it's a bit of a long haul. And what you're really trying to do with stress is minimize it. So for me, I needed a lot of extra help from friends, family, um, and I really started to study sleep, and I learned a lot about how humans sleep. And I can go through some tips if you want. Maybe I'll try to give you some that are not so
Well, yeah,
generalizing.
let's hear a tip or two.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have heard, like, you shouldn't have screen time but before 2 hours after you go to bed. That stuff is literally wired to increased dopamine in the system, which keeps you awake. People should be trying to go to bed at the same time every night, even if you don't feel like it. Getting to bed before 10 o'clock for adrenal fatigue sufferers, most of your adrenals will repair themselves you get the most bang for your buck between like 10 and 2 a.m. I believe for your adrenals. So people that are staying up till 1 in the morning having a couple beers, whatever, and you have adrenal fatigue, you're not doing anything for your adrenals. But for me, because my mind is racing and it was very difficult to fall asleep, one of the best things I learned how to do was, and it sounds boring, and it's again, it's a learned thing that, as I talk about this, I'm probably going to start to yawn because I've now trained my body to get tired when I do this. But you want to envision nothing else but a blackboard and your hand with a piece of chalk, and you're going to envision yourself writing slowly the number 100 on the blackboard, and then you continue to write from 100 all the way down to 0. Now, the catch with this is anytime you think about anything else other than your hand writing those numbers on the board, you reset back to 100. So example is, let's say I get to 96, and then I think about, oh, I got to run my kids to school tomorrow. Immediately reset, go back to 100. I never get out of the 80s and I'm asleep. Now that might take me a couple minutes because I reset a few times, but I've never gotten out of the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, and one other thing too. This is also helpful for me. If you're really stressing about an event the next day, have a journal or a piece of paper beside your bed. Don't put it in your phone because again, the light bothers the brain and the eyes. But get out of bed and write down whatever it is you're stressing about. For a lot of people, it's almost like it transfers it from your brain to the paper. I don't know if you ever watched Harry Potter, Casey, but there's like a point where Dumbledore the wizard literally takes his wand and he puts it against his head and he takes a memory out and he puts it in a little cauldron and forgets about it. You can go look at it at any time. That's essentially what you're doing. And it removes that stress from the brain.
Maybe that just me to watch to read all the books and watch all the series. I'm not sure. Never touched it. I never have. But okay, some really, really good stuff. We are kind of running out of time here. So a couple quick things. We are going to have a guest here coming up on, it's either our next podcast or the podcast after. Very, very excited about that. So as we continue forward, we're going to bring in people from our community and people from all walks of life who have either suffered from adrenal fatigue or they're helping the community in some way. So very excited to be able to bring that to you coming up. But again, I'm Casey Hawkinson, Greg Davenport with us as well, our main founder of Unlimited Health and Adrenal Relief. Greg, before I wrap this up and give all our contact information, do you have anything else that you'd like to say?
No, I mean, the main thing with adrenal fatigue sufferers is, just to rehash a little bit, you really have to ask for help, do everything possible to de-stress yourself, and realize that it's not going to happen overnight. Now, let's say it takes someone a year to recover, that doesn't mean you go from feeling bad on day one to a year later, all of a sudden you're better. There is a gradual improvement, but just know that it takes a little bit longer. And if anyone has any questions, anything you guys would like to see us cover on these podcasts, we're more than willing to do it. We enjoy doing it. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, awesome. So again, you have just listened to Adrenal Fatigue podcast episode number 3. And we are Unlimited Health. That's our company name. Our product is called Adrenal Relief. You can find us on the big worldwide internet. So where you can find us, number one, our website, www.unlimited-health.com, or you can find us on Facebook, and our Facebook address is @Adrenal Relief. And also you can find us on Instagram, and our Instagram address is @Adrenal Fatigue _. So you can chase us down on those 3 platforms, ask any questions, read any of our content. We post content daily, sometimes even more than that. So wonderful having you all listen here today. That is it. You have just listened to Adrenal Fatigue podcast number 3. We'll see you all soon.
See you.